I truly, genuinely believe that Fiat is ending. As a boomer, you have to internalize the fact that you enslaved your children's generation. Bitcoin is going to win for practical economic reasons, and it is inevitable. Therefore, you should get onto Bitcoin, from a rational perspective. Fiat is violence, and it's bad. Objectively, because it's enforced by violence and by the state. And it's deceit and fraud from the beginning. The goal is to destroy the US dollar. The goal is to destroy the Federal Reserve. It is and always has been. The mission is not complete until the Federal Reserve is burnt to the ground legally. Okay, I'm not advocating to blow it up, although I probably wouldn't cry if that happened.
Welcome to another episode of Your Bitcoin Story. I'm your host, Gigi, and tonight we have a truly remarkable guest joining us. Please welcome Chief Bull, Francis Pouliot, a passionate advocate for self-sovereignty and the founder of Bull Bitcoin, a non-custodial Bitcoin exchange. Francis is on a mission to engineer sovereignty through Bitcoin, empowering individuals to take control of their financial futures. He has also been instrumental in fostering a sustainable circular economy in Costa Rica known as Bitcoin Jungle, demonstrating how Bitcoin can drive local economies and create lasting positive change. For over a decade, Bull Bitcoin has provided Canadians with a reliable Bitcoin exchange service. And earlier this year, they expanded their reach to all EU countries as well as Mexico and Costa Rica. This growth reflects Francis's commitment to make Bitcoin accessible to a broader audience. Join us as we explore Francis's journey, his insights on self-sovereignty, and the exciting developments in the world of Bitcoin. Francis, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Gigi. Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you again. We met for
Likewise.
the first time in Prague in person about a month ago.
Yes.
That was great. And yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure. And thank you for taking the time to come on. I've been following the Bull Bitcoin journey for some time, but especially since earlier in the year, as I mentioned in your introduction, when you tapped into the EU market, I full-fledgedly moved all my exchange business to Bull Bitcoin, and hands down, you have been by far the best place, not just because you're sitting in front of me, but the customer exchange experience. If you don't believe me, if you think Gigi's chatting BS, go try it out yourself and prove me wrong on that one.
Love to hear it, man. Thanks. And when we're developing the UX and the app and the flow and the philosophy, our target market is not necessarily like the average person. It's the hardcore Bitcoiner that's going to be recommending his friends to Bitcoin, right? Because my goal is not to make something that the normie will like. It's to make something that the hardcore Bitcoiner will like. So I'm setting my standard so that guys like you who have experience and knowledge of Bitcoin can be impressed, right? So Thanks for the feedback, because this is exactly what I want to hear. And I'm in a point in my journey where all of the Bull Bitcoin experience is becoming so fresh, so crisp, so great. And I'm just I'm kind of on a high right now because Bull Bitcoin's on a roll. But thanks for saying that, man. It really means a lot to us.
For sure. No, and honestly, I'm giving my honest feedback, and I love what you guys have been doing for such a long time and what you're doing going forward. So I'm sure we'll tap into those things on this episode, but to some of the listeners who probably are not so familiar with who Francis Pouliot is, this chief bull that Gigi has been praising, your journey goes way, way back, I believe, into the early 2013s. And usually, as the audience knows, we ask them the question, how did you first discover Bitcoin? And usually it's that I entered 2017, I went through the shitcoin stage. You go way back before that. Now, as I'm sure some people that know you already have heard your story many times on different podcasts, so I'm not going to ask you this question, how did you first discover Bitcoin? I would phrase it a little bit different. Kind of, how has your personal journey through Bitcoin been in the last decade, and how has it shaped your views on finance and technology?
Wow, that's it's a great question. My Bitcoin journey is very strange because I changed a lot as an individual, as a man, because of Bitcoin. I look very different physically than I used to. My brain has been rewired in all sorts of different ways. I feel like I am closer to the peak Francis version of what Francis can be today at 36 years old than I was before when I discovered Bitcoin at 23, largely because of Bitcoin. However, intellectually and philosophically, in terms of Bitcoin, I've actually been very consistent, and it's almost as if there's been this one theme in my life where Bitcoin that has carried me all this way, and that it's just inherent to who I am as a Bitcoiner. And that's self-custody, right? So the first time that Bitcoin really clicked for me, and I'll tell a little bit about my story because it's funny. Like I
Yeah.
got into Bitcoin not understanding it at all. Long story short, there was a mentor that I had that was a really good friend, and that he convinced me to just like drop everything you're doing and go into Bitcoin. And I was like, but I kind of like what you guys are doing with Bitcoin, but I don't understand anything. And he's like, shut the fuck up. Like, trust me, quit your job, go into Bitcoin. And he kind of like saw in me that I was a Bitcoiner. That was like, I was like, Morpheus with Neo, it's like, I see
Yeah.
the potential, like you're the one, kind of thing.
The chosen
And
one.
yeah. And then, so Bitcoin didn't click for me for quite a while. I was just like, kind of like excited about, being part of something cool. Really. I was like a libertarian. So there was like the libertarian aspect. But it's when I understood like private key cryptography and the distributed aspect of Bitcoin. And then one day, really like I really had an aha moment where I realized that ownership, like property rights, can be enforced without a court, without a third party. And the fact, and like historically, property rights have always been protected and enforced by some form of government or another. We can argue that the actual reason why government exists in the first place is actually to help people protect their property rights. And then, when you're like a classic liberal in terms of like philosophy, like not like a woke liberal, but like liberalism, like free market liberal, you understand, like, the American Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all of that, that like we as humans possess rights when we are born. Like when we are born, we're not animals, we are not plants, we are something else, and we have rights. And that right is the right to life and the right to property, which arguably are the same thing. You can own your life, you own your body, you own your thoughts, you own your work. And the governments recognize this right and protect it.
If you're enjoying the show, it would mean a lot to me if you had hit subscribe and leave a quick rating or review. It helps more people find these conversations and support the mission. And if you need help getting your Bitcoin off exchanges and into self-custody, or if you're ready to build a robust, bespoke inheritance plan, the Become Unruggable one-on-one consulting program, where you will work exclusively with me, is exactly what you're looking for. You can find all the ways to reach out to me in the show notes down below.
The right does not come from a government, so they are inherent to you. But up until Bitcoin, you needed a government to enforce and recognize this right. Whereas with public key cryptography and the blockchain and the Bitcoin monetary system, one day I realized, oh my God, like the right to property is me as a human being. It's in my soul. It's in who I am. And I can enforce it and protect it with mathematics, with something that's out of the universe, that's natural, right? That's obviously Satoshi made Bitcoin and made it all happen. It's ultimately, it's the laws of the universe that are protecting my funds. It's something that's kind of like natural. And I just had this like almost religious moment where I was like, this is it. Like, this is the greatest thing of all time. And, so self-custody, when I realized the power of self-custody and like what it does to a human being to be able to essentially remove himself from the potential of slavery, right? So like to become a free man. Like, so Bitcoin allows, before Bitcoin, we could not be free men. We needed permission from government. We needed the government. We needed the banks. We needed the financial system. And now you can become a free man. And I've always been obsessed with this idea of liberation, of freedom. Even when I was a young teenager, I would read like Albert Camus and all sorts of romantic ideas of freedom and liberation. And I was like, this is the real fucking deal. So that's been kind of like the guiding principle of my Bitcoin journey has been self-custody at all costs. It is the only thing that matters. And of course, there's other things that matter in Bitcoin. There is a monetary debasement. It's a huge problem. There's social consequences. So I fully subscribe to that idea as well. I fully subscribed to the idea of like censorship resistant transactions and opting out of the banking system, which are predatory, useless middlemen. But at the core, what really matters to me, it's self-custody. Even if Bitcoin wasn't sound money and it was just a payment network, I would still be very, very much interested in Bitcoin. So I didn't get into Bitcoin from the NGU side, like a lot of people did, right? So a lot of people, they go into Bitcoin because they want to become rich. And then they kind of slowly trickle down into cypherpunk. I really got into Bitcoin with like, the cypherpunk ethos, which I thought was like fucking amazing. And I guess like my evolution in Bitcoin, I have shifts in philosophies. For example, one of the major shifts that I've had was around 2018, 2019. I started to get like Bitcoin fatigue a little bit, like not like a burnout, but kind of like really sick and tired of trying to orange pill the establishment, because I was like a Bitcoin educator, and my thing was really like, I want to get the masses into Bitcoin. I want to get as many people as possible into Bitcoin. And then I started to have this shift where I realized actually, like, I don't necessarily need to orange pill everyone, but I want anyone to be able to become a sovereign individual. Not everyone can be a sovereign individual, but anyone that is willing and is able to intellectually, philosophically, to take responsibility for their life and to have some agency in the universe, those people, any of them should be able to become cypherpunk sovereign individual like me. So I kind of switched towards like mass adoption, towards creating tools specifically designed for sovereign individuals, and not necessarily seeking to have as many people as possible in Bitcoin, but creating the best experience for the few. You know, Svetsky and I share this kind of like ideology of like, I think it's not like 1% of the population. I think it's more like 20%, right? I think, you know, think about 20% of people are like, they can be taken out of the matrix, maybe a little more. And then as my journey in Bitcoin has always been based on one concept, which is to solve a problem, identify the problem that people are facing and solve it. And like when I first started out, I was running this physical Bitcoin, let's call it education center, like information kiosk. An embassy, right? So nowadays, this is a concept which there's tons. I mean, there's probably like 50 or maybe more around the world, but it's just like a physical center where people come to you and they ask questions about Bitcoin. And really what you end up doing most of the time is like installing wallets, and they have some, you know, I lost my Bitcoin. Can you help me? Or, you know, I need to buy a mining rig. Do you have any contacts or something? It's like those kinds of questions. And then, so people come at me with their problems, right? Because if they don't have problems, then you don't need to come to an information kiosk or to an education center if everything's going well. So I kept like getting all of these problems associated to Bitcoin. So of course, the first problem that I tried to solve was like, I want to buy Bitcoin. How do I do that? So that was the first thing.
One of the biggest problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest. It is and always has been like the biggest question people have. Like, I want to get Bitcoin. Like, how do I buy Bitcoin? Right. That's like the number one thing. And then the second one is obviously like, all right, I have Bitcoin. Like, where do I spend my Bitcoin? How do I, like, what can I do with Bitcoin? And like, you know, the media is calling you like, well, what can you do with your Bitcoins? Well, that's why we started like the bill payment company Bills, which kind of fuse into Bull Bitcoin. And then because at the time there was like only Quadriga and there was like nothing else, and like Mongoose and stuff like that. So all shit exchanges. And then
all gone today. I mean, all gone today, right?
Yeah, you know, exactly. And like I could see that. I could already see that because I was involved in the space. I can see like that one is a house of cards, that one is a house of cards, this one is shit. And then also like my big concern was if I'm recommending Bitcoin, an exchange to someone like Coinbase, I know what's going to happen if I send them on Coinbase. I know what's going to happen, right? First of all, they're never going to withdraw. They're going to leave the coins there. Even if I tell them like go on Coinbase and then withdraw, what's going to happen is they're going to buy and they're not going to withdraw. And then they're going to get emails from Coinbase. Hey, did you see that fart coin is not listed on Coinbase? And like, of course they're going to buy fart coin because, you know, Coinbase is and all the crypto exchanges, like they have a financial vested interest in you trading. They don't want you to hold Bitcoin there, right? So they want you to trade them. They want you to buy shit coins and sell shit coins and get into that game. They actually make a lot more money from shitcoin to shitcoin trading than they do from just selling Bitcoin to the general public. So, you know, what I realized was like, okay, I keep pushing people to these exchanges and I need to warn them about all the features they shouldn't be using on that exchange. So why isn't there an exchange where you can't fuck it up, right? You just can't trade shitcoins on it, and you just
There's
can't.
There's no 10 different versions of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, the homepage of that is like, I just had this dream, you know, like I've had this ideal experience. Yeah. I really believe in the experience of Bitcoin being a powerful and fun and simple thing. So that in my vision, I have like a very easy flow of, you know, how to get into Bitcoin and what to do next. Because people end up shooting themselves in the foot. It's really sad, right? Like, you were smart and visionary enough to get into Bitcoin early, but you end up screwing yourself, right? So people don't lose Bitcoin because their phones get hacked. They usually don't lose Bitcoins because they lose their mnemonics. That does happen. But I would say like 98% of all people that will ever tell you that they lost crypto or Bitcoin, it's two things. Either their exchange account got hacked or their exchange got hacked, right? So someone got their 2FA or something or SMS or whatever, and then, or they traded shitcoins and then they lost everything, right? Like, think about every time someone says, yeah, I lost
Which is
a lot
the
of
most
crypto.
popular case out of the two.
Right. And I don't want people to lose their money like that. And some Bitcoiners are like, well, it's their fault. It's like, I have a lot of empathy towards victims, which comes from my past as the guy at the Bitcoin embassy. It's easy to victim blame someone when you're on Twitter and you're seeing someone who's like, I lost all my money trading shitcoins. But when you see them in person and you see how they were like manipulated by actual sociopathic liars and con men that tricked them into like, you know, like little trickster devils, like convincing them like, yes, buy the shitcoin, you know, like I have a lot of empathy for victims because like, it's not that out of their vice and faults they fell into shitcoin. Like, people were actively pushing them into Bitcoin in most cases. So yeah, and then now I'm in a really awesome spot in my life where bull Bitcoin, as you mentioned early on in the show, like I've worked so hard all these years to build an infrastructure, and there's a lot of infrastructure behind an exchange, like banking, regulation, software, technology. Like we have, I don't know, like we have a lot of engineers, and bull Bitcoin is different from a lot of the other companies in a way that's hard to explain to like a customer or consumer because they don't see that. But all of our infrastructure is basically in-house. Like we don't rely on third-party companies for almost everything. Like the entire software stack is built in-house, and we have like a very long-term view. So that's not something that as a customer you care about, because as long as you're getting the service, it's fine. But that's something that I care about. And like, I kind of came into this point in my life where I'm like, what's the next problems that I'm going to solve in Bitcoin? And, you know, being a self-custody maximalist, the next problem that I've been trying to solve is
Self-custody.
the self-custody wallet, like the wallet, like bull Bitcoin, we have the exchange, we have the payments. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for wallet devs, whether it's Blue, whether it's Nunchuck, whether it's Green, whether it's Aqua. Sparrow is fucking great. There's like all sorts of great wallets out there. And
unless you're getting it on the App Store, which is not Sparrow. Sorry for interrupting.
No, yeah, exactly. No Sparrow on the App Store. Don't do that. And, you know, Electrum, and there's all sorts of wallets, but there has never been like a wallet that I, Francis, feel like it does everything I want it to do. And also my mom can use it, right? So this is what I want. I want a wallet that does everything that I want, but also my mom can use it, right? And up until now, it's kind of like been Blue Wallet, but Blue Wallet no longer has Lightning, and then So I set up on this journey about 3 years ago, just really an ambitious idea, which is like, I'm going to build a fucking wallet. I want to build a wallet. I love.
Did you hear about this wallet? I hear this is a really good one.
And dude, so that has been like the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life is in my Bitcoin life, because of course I have a beautiful family. But in my Bitcoin life, it's been building that wallet, because I've learned so much about the technology, working with developers. And I realize now that the bull Bitcoin wallet is my legacy. It really is, because it's open source code. It's immortal. After I die, the code is all still there on GitHub, and people will still be working on the bull Bitcoin wallet way after I'm dead, because it's an open source software that's really, really well done.
Yeah.
And then now I think like what I wanted to craft as an experience is like, you download an app, you buy Bitcoin, and you don't really have to overthink anything. It's self-custody from the get-go. And, you know, we're hiring people for the wallet. We have insane features, man. There's stuff that you haven't even seen that's coming online this week. Dude, we have like...
Shout out to Ishi. Ishi's working overclock. I don't know. Is Ishi an alien? Like, does he have time to sleep?
The key to bull Bitcoin's success is twofold, right? So the first key was a very strong ideological stance, a political stance, right? So bull Bitcoin is like almost like a political party in a way, because we carry some ideology, and that has caused us to miss out on a lot of opportunities. Like, you know, shitcoin trading, bro, I would have a private jet right now. If I had been in shitcoin since 2013, 2014, I would fucking be on a jet, not even kidding. Like I could have made so much money like selling shitcoins. It's unreal. And then also like not being a self-custodial exchange, you do lose out on a lot of clients that they just don't follow through
Yeah.
because they need
They're
to do the
scared. They
Bitcoin
don't know
part.
what to do. They
Right.
just want to buy and hold.
Exactly. And then, but what that has done is that I've been able to recruit the best of the best worldwide. And because people
Yeah.
want to work at Bull Bitcoin because it's not just a job, it's a mission. And
Mm.
it's like a little corny to say that, but it really isn't. Like it's really a mission. And like, it's almost like a brotherhood where we're fighting the dark side here, right? So guys like Ishi and the rest of our team, I've been able to get these guys to work on our project, mainly I think because of the ideology.
Mm.
So Ishi is just incredible, and this whole idea that self custody is hard, it is true, and that it's hard. It's not. It's not that hard. It's not.
You need to know
It's not
what you're doing, basically.
you need to know what you're doing, and I think that you shouldn't really need to know that much. Like I think there's a level of stuff that the average person should know about Bitcoin, like the fact that the keys are on the device and the fact that if you don't have a backup you're screwed. But apart from that, like things should just happen on a mobile app, like on an app, pretty much by themselves, and the way that the app is built should just naturally push you towards the best practices without you having to overthink it. And that's kind of like where we've gone. And dude, teaser, man, our Coldcard Q integration in the Bull Bitcoin wallet, it's so flawless. It's so incredible. I think it might be the best hardware experience of all time. I really do. Like, Coldcard Q, scan it, import it into your wallet, create a transaction, bing, bing, send it out. Like we did a really fantastic job. Like the Bull Bitcoin wallet is becoming a non-custodial controller. It's not even just a wallet because there's also an exchange. And it's not just a wallet, it's not just an exchange. There's also this concept of like having a hardware wallet controller into it and having backup systems built into it. So yeah, I've had this vision in my mind of like the ideal Bitcoin experience. And now in 2025, it's becoming very, very close to what I dreamt about. And by the end of this year, I mean, it's done. Like
It's gonna go parabolic.
it's going to go parabolic. And then like, I want us to be always on the forefront of technology. So my big shift also personally has been to get way, way more interested in the technology. I was not a programmer. My background is social studies. It's politics, economics, sociology, that kind of stuff, philosophy, and that kind of stuff. So I was never a tech person. But when you spend 12 years in Bitcoin, like working with developers, like you kind of like pick it up, right? And then now I'm at a point where I want to explore everything that Bitcoin can do, right? Bitcoin has so much untapped potential, and I want to make sure that payments can scale. I want to make sure that self-custody can scale. So the things that I'm interested in now, like privacy technologies, like silent payments. I'm interested in ARC, in second layer payment solutions. I'm interested in Miniscript and inheritance. Inheritance is the next big thing I want to do. Of course, I became a father 2 years ago. So when you become a father,
it's a different mindset. I can relate. You're like, wow, this is not just my stack anymore. This is a legacy stack now.
Of course. And then, you're always thinking like, okay, what happens if I die? And it's not easy, man. It's not easy to have a self-custodial inheritance plan because typically you just trust the lawyer to kind of like disperse the funds according to your wish.
But you die, you have no idea what that lawyer does, or he goes rogue and just.
Of course, it's really hard for a lawyer to like rug a bank account, but a lawyer that has a private keys are lost very easily.
Yeah.
And so this whole idea of using like script and decaying multi-sig, expanding multi-sig, using, these advanced scripts to create very awesome and custom inheritance plans so that your wishes can be respected by the Bitcoin protocol, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like I have multiple kids. I want it to be split, but I don't want them to be able to spend until a certain time. And then I don't want them to get it all at once. I want them to maybe get some of it in the beginning and then having in case they lose it. And then if the keys are lost, I want, a certain person to be able to recover on their behalf. And like, this is all something that, you plan legally normally, but this is something that with the new technologies of Bitcoin, you can actually program. Again, same as always. Why is that a problem? Why is there a problem? It's because the UX of that is hard. It's actually not easy to create a mini script inheritance plan. So this is kind of the things that I'm thinking about, like how to exploit the potential of Bitcoin to its maximum. And like, I'm not the kind of person that wants to change the protocol. I think the Bitcoin protocol works really well. I want to, my sandbox is the application level, like apps. Like I want to build apps. I don't want to change the way Bitcoin works. I think Bitcoin works great. I want to make apps that fully exploit the potential of Bitcoin. And like, having an exchange which makes money. So Bull Bitcoin is a self-funded exchange. We don't have investors. We don't have any debt. And like, we're doing reasonably well because we have clients all over the world. And, that allows us to fund all this R&D thing,
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I had this conversation like with my dad about like millennials flexing, like what, flexing your wealth and what that means. And my mom, I was with my mom and she's like, so you don't flex? Like, do you flex? I'm like, no, mom, I don't flex. Like the Bull Bitcoin wallet is my flex. And I'm explaining to her, like, I could buy a Lambo or I could build a wallet, like I could spend that money hiring developers. And like the Bull Bitcoin wallet for me is like the ultimate flex. So much more badass to build a cool ass Bitcoin wallet than to own a stupid Lamborghini. So there's
and
part
lasting
of that.
so much longer. A Lambo is only going to last 2 decades, right?
Yeah. So the Bull Bitcoin wallet is kind of like it's my tombstone. It's my statue. It's my grave.
Nice.
It's like it's the thing that will outlast me because the exchange won't outlast me. Like Bitcoin exchanges. The Bitcoin exchange, if the plan goes well, Bull Bitcoin goes bankrupt in 15 years, right? Or 20 years because there's no more fiat. Yeah. Bull Bitcoin makes money by exchanging fiat to Bitcoin.
You're not going to go to
no
swap sats for some other sats because our sats are the same, right?
Exactly. All sats are the same, but people will always need a Bitcoin wallet, right? Even post hyper Bitcoinization. So if the plan goes well, Bull Bitcoin goes bankrupt and all that's left is like the other stuff that we're building, like the wallet. And that's always been, I remember like in 2017, we had with my first employees, which are all still at Bull Bitcoin, by the way, Arthur, Etienne, Guillaume, Seb, and Paul, and a few others. We had like this big meeting over a whole day and we're like, so what is the goal of Bull Bitcoin? And we came up with this thing, which was hilarious. It's just like, it's to obsolete ourselves. The ultimate mission of Bull Bitcoin is to make ourselves obsolete.
That's amazing.
So that's really fun. And we do believe that. And that's why we're building the wallet. And also like, that's why I'm thinking about all these other, so after like fiat to Bitcoin exchange is gone, like what business is there going to be? Well, what we're discovering is that there's all sorts of layer 2 solutions. There's the Liquid network, the Lightning network, there's Arc, there's Spark, there's eCash, there's Fedimint. There's all sorts of different, let's call them
layers.
Bitcoin banks, right? Whether they are fully decentralized like Lightning or like, let's call them Bitcoin payment systems. Right? And then moving from one to the other requires a market maker, essentially, right? So it requires like a business that is going to take the counterparty of that trade. So for example, like that's why I love Bolts as a business model. Because
shout out to Killian.
This is like one of the most awesome Bitcoin businesses of all time. Like I'm so jealous of like Bolts sometimes because like they don't have to deal with banks and shit. They're just engineers, but like they've built a great business, right? And their business is to facilitate the movement of funds across different, otherwise incompatible pools of money. So Liquid is not compatible with Lightning. You can't just move from Liquid to Lightning, but you can have a service. It's not exactly a middleman because it's like non-custodial, but
like a bridge,
service,
basically, that bridges you from here to there.
Yeah. So many exciting things, and I just want us to be on top of it. Like I want Bull Bitcoin to be on top of it. Like, and that's what you get when you're a Bitcoin only company. Because if you are a shitcoin company, you can't think like that.
There's different interests. There's how much
because
can
you need
we
to support every
to...
fucking shitcoin. Because there's always going to be a new shitcoin that comes along, and then there's true. Ethereum is having a fork, so you have to support the Ethereum fork, and then Solana is having an upgrade, so you have to upgrade shit with Solana, and you're always kind of like running after all of these shitcoins while you're stagnating on Bitcoin. Like you're not pushing ahead on the technologies of Bitcoin. So all of the like Binance's, at best they like support Lightning now. That's like the best that they can do. But they're so far behind in terms of Bitcoin infrastructure and Bitcoin technology because they spend so much time on the shitcoins. And yeah, all right. Spend 30 minutes rant. Okay, let's have a breath.
I've never had a guest that I ask an opening question and it goes into a 30-minute rant, but I loved it. And everything you said is, it's super inspiring because as I said in the beginning, Francis, you're not someone that kind of jumped into the boat a couple of cycles ago. The amount of stuff you've seen, experienced, and had influence on is remarkable. And most importantly, which I want to highlight to the listeners, Francis, as you mentioned, you never took any money from no angel investors, no VC funds, no nothing. You don't have a board of shareholders that you need to bow down to and show them quarterly earnings and kind of really focus on squeezing out your clients to get, the most amount of profit out of them. You can actually focus on building sovereign tools, which in my opinion, every true Bitcoin company should be focusing on. Some have other interests. And as you said, Coinbase, which has a bad reputation in the circle, is because they just focus on selling shit coins, which I don't understand. How can a regulated company of that size still be doing this extortion to, I don't know, anyone that's made, the minimal, but like most people get absolutely wrecked on shit coins, even on the Trump coin, which came out right before the presidency. Everybody got rugged. I even had family members message me, Gigi, how do I get this Melania coin? No, they told me, can you please buy the Melania coin? I was like, out of like self-respect for me and you, I'm not going to buy it for you because it's going to go into ash. And still happens today, every day. But then what you are doing is truly, as I mentioned on Twitter, like it's God's work. Like you're really building the technology that empowers the people and really solves the biggest problems. And I'm really excited ever since, as I said, joining Bull Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, using it as my main exchange to acquire my sats and mentioning, the privacy aspect, which I think we'll go into in a little while. I don't know if there's any other exchange, maybe there is, but like the fact that you can withdraw in liquid to the wallet and have it basically like anonymize myself to a certain extent is fantastic. As you said, Binance, one of the biggest exchanges, only recently, maybe in the last 12 months, integrated Lightning. Liquid, if they ever integrate, is going to be years away. And it's just, like, what can I say? I mean, the fact that you are really focusing on the people and people's technology is the most vital. And just to finish my mini rant back is what you mentioned with the use cases on Bitcoin, which I'm also really bullish on. What can we build and implement Bitcoin and scale it, not with stupid JPEGs and putting, relevant data on the chain and having node runners, copy that stuff. I'm also against, filtering it. But I love this quote. Ever since I started my journey, which was way after you in 2017, my main mentor was Andreas Antonopoulos. And I remember closely one of his talks, he talked about how, when the internet protocol came out, people thought kind of, like the web 1.0 and 2.0 when you just spoke to the website, and the email was kind of like the end goal. And here we are like 2 decades later, and it's like a parallel universe where you can do it. We're recording this right now on the internet. Nobody was talking about that 20 years ago. And who knows what happens next? And the same thing I think is with Bitcoin. Like it started off as this payments protocol, but I think there's so many things that we can build on top of it, many different layers that we cannot even imagine today. And instead of focusing our brain power, getting together, as you said, building this team with people with the same ideologies, missions, and a strive for freedom, people are selling shit coins and just looking to get a quick buck just to pay the next bill instead of focusing on the next decade. What can we build? So that's why, like, truly, you are the most based company in the space, and I will support you for as long as I live on this earth and hopefully my kids afterwards.
Man, thanks you so much for saying that. And like, as you mentioned at the early beginning of your rant, like the fact that we didn't get VC money was also
crucial.
It's kind of a twist of fate. It's kind of an accident of history as well, because funny enough, when I got into Bitcoin, the ancestor of Bull Bitcoin is just basically peer-to-peer trading, like me peer-to-peer trading and like, having like a Bitcoin kiosk, and it kind of like all fell organically. I did actually try to get VC funding when I was very young, right? In 2015. In 2015, that's when I decided to like, let's say, incorporate Bull Bitcoin as like a real company and not just like as a side hustle essentially that I was doing. So, because I was like doing OTC deals and like that kind of stuff. And then I was like curious to see like, hey, like, because I was in the startup ecosystem and I was like, well, first you get the angel round, and then you get the seed round, and then you get the Series A, and then you get
check the
Series B.
playbook of
And
startups.
then,
How do they
and
start?
then you do an IPO, and then you basically retire and you're rich, and you do it all over
and then
again.
you exit and get that plane.
Right. Yeah. And then you get the plane. Exactly. So I did actually go to see a VC firm, which is the same VC firm that invested in Blockstream. And then I pitched them Bull Bitcoin, and dude, like, I wish I had recorded that interview because they were just like, but how are you going to do this? And I'm just like, I don't know. We'll just figure it out. Like, but like, what's the market for Bitcoin? I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, don't you get it? Like, don't you get it? Like, it's Bitcoin. Who cares? Who cares about the market today? Like, this is going to take over the world. And actually, I didn't get, thank God they turned me down because they were offering something like, I was looking at like getting like $100,000 for like giving away 20% of the company or something like that. Some insane tiny amount of money for like a massive share of equity. And my life would have been so different if they had said yes. If they had said yes, I probably would have taken the money because I was young. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So they turned me down, and I was like, well, like when I first got into Bitcoin, I was like a student, right? So I was fresh out of university. So I'm not like one of those OG ballers that just like, but people are like, oh, you must be so rich. I'm like, you have no idea how much. Yeah, first of all, I was poor when I first got into Bitcoin. I was like student level poor. I was like ramen level poor. I come from a wealthy family, so I wasn't like, I'm not going to say I'm like a poor bride. Not at all. I come from a pretty wealthy family, but I personally was like student level poor. And also like I was paid in Bitcoin and I only had Bitcoin from the early start. So I was just spending my Bitcoins this whole time.
Yeah.
So I did actually spend a lot of like the stash on making Bull Bitcoin a reality. But what's really amazing about that is like with number go up technology, with the price of Bitcoin going up, the budget of Bull Bitcoin kept getting bigger and bigger every year without us having to do much, really. I mean, and we weren't profitable until like, 2020 or something like that. Like, so, we always had to like put up more of our Bitcoin in there, but the budget kept increasing as the number went up. And I was very, very fortunate to be like in this historical context where I could self-finance Bull Bitcoin just because of the run up from, when Bull Bitcoin started, it was 2015. And then 2.5 years later, Bitcoin was like $250 when I started Bull Bitcoin, pretty much. I started Bull Bitcoin at the bottom, pretty much. And then 2.5 years later, like Bitcoin is $20,000 a coin. So like the origin of Bull Bitcoin was like a 2.5 year bear market where our budget is ever increasing. So I was like, at least fortunate to have been in that time and space to be able to have that secret weapon, which is like the NGU aspect of Bitcoin. But man, like if I had investors, I don't know. First of all, I would have lost my mind totally because like there's
misalignments on everything.
100%, man. The vision that I have is like, it's like a 50-year corporate vision. We are 10 years in and there's like 40 more years. And then, in 40 years, I'll be 75. Right. And then,
you're going to be one cool grandpa, Francis. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm dead. Right. So like I'll retire at 75. But I have like a 40, 50-year vision for Bull Bitcoin, which is way beyond the time horizon of any venture capitalist. And then like, it's not like a cute thing that I say that I'm preparing for hyper Bitcoinization. I truly believe that. Like I truly, genuinely believe that Fiat is ending. I think we are in the last death throes of Fiat. And I'm not one of those people that believes like Bitcoin will exist Bitcoin will not coexist peacefully with the US dollar. Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. Like, you were bamboozled by the Bitcoiners. Like, you've been told that Bitcoin is an asset to the US dollar because you're going to back somehow the US dollar with Bitcoin. And then, that actually the future is stable coins. Like, no, like the goal is to destroy the US dollar. The goal is to destroy the Federal Reserve. It is and always has been. Like, the mission is not complete until the Federal Reserve is burnt to the ground. Then the Bank of International Settlement is destroyed, that horrible building in Basel. If you want to see what we're up against, Google Bank of International Settlement Basel. That building is the Tower of Mordor. Like, we need to fucking raise that shit to the ground legally. Okay, I'm not advocating to blow it up. Although I probably wouldn't cry if that happened. But I'm just saying, like, we need to make it irrelevant, buy it, and destroy it. So I don't think
what's the secret of making it irrelevant? It's so simple to the listeners that are probably listening. Well, how do we make it irrelevant? It's just opt out. Like, move all of your cash from your bank account into Bitcoin. If you're smart, you don't need to build Bitcoin. But if you want to do anything else, just move it to Bitcoin. And that's it. Like, it's the most easiest. Like, I'm fascinated how majority of people out there really don't like the system how it is. And the answer is looking at them straight in the face. It's right there. And there's me and a gazillion other people that are telling them, guys, here's the answer. And they're like, but it's too expensive. It's like, man, it's not about the fiat price. It's about exiting, like putting in your vote by just pulling the trigger. Crazy.
To do that requires to admit that you were wrong about everything about finance and money.
That is true. And people don't want to admit it. And don't want to live it.
Especially for boomers, especially for older people, because as a boomer, if you adopt the mindset of the Bitcoiner, you have to internalize the fact that you enslaved your children,
lived a lie.
Generation. You fucked up the system. You thought that you were creating a better world for us as boomers. And it's not like necessarily like
you fucked us unknowingly, basically.
Right, exactly. Like you voted for this, right? And you did not fight back when it was already time to fight back. Like, you created the fiat system like 1971, and you benefited from it by having the fucking price of your house go up and the infinite stock market and all of your pensions.
But they didn't know better. It's not like they had the answer and they were like, nah, fuck it, I'll go get rich and screw them. Like, at the end of the day, like, they were doing what was right to them. Like,
for sure. And honestly, you can't really blame them, right? It's like, why would you not benefit? Like, why would you fight against?
We would have all done the same in their shoes. I mean,
we probably would have. And then the fact that your kids are going to be enslaved by debt was also hidden from them by the politicians, right? It's like, don't think about that. We'll figure it out. So yeah. And then how do we stop this system? And as you said, it's just that you just need that's what's like, you just need to outlive it. Like, we just need to outlast it. Like, that's like my philosophy of Bitcoin. It's like, we need to create tools that cannot be shut down, because we don't need to do anything other than survive. Like, Bitcoin does not need to do anything other than survive and handle payments at scale, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin works. There's nothing like, as a protocol, as a money, it really doesn't need to be improved that much. Like, what we need to do is to make sure that it remains censorship resistant, and that, like, when people want to join the lifeboat, we can handle that traffic. Like, that's the real only job. That's why I'm so focused on like payments and layer 2, because there's like a scalability issue with Bitcoin. That's my main concern, is like allowing Bitcoiners to be able to make payments with the least amount of compromise possible, even if there is 3 billion Bitcoiners in the world, which is not something that we can do today. But I've always conceived Bitcoin, and I have this quote, which I think I made up, at least it's attributed to me, which is Bitcoin doesn't need a marketing department, because Bitcoin is a life raft on a sinking ship. Like, you don't need to advertise the benefits of a life raft to someone who's drowning. You just need the life raft to be there and to float, right? And then they will swim to it, because otherwise they die, right? So my job is not to advertise the benefits of life rafts, even though I do like to tell people that they are sinking, because they don't realize that they're sinking. So I'm not
advertising. Too busy at the bar getting wasted.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, have you seen what's going on here? Like, we're all jumping ship, and like, you should probably join us. And then, like, well, I don't know, like, the water seems really cold. Okay, well, fuck off, like, we're jumping in, we'd rather swim. We'd rather swim in a bit of cold water for like a few minutes and like survive.
That's true.
But yeah, my job is to make sure that the life raft is there, that it's safe, that it's comfortable, and that it's going to float regardless of what happens. And then the ship is just going to sink. And as long as the life raft builders exist, like, everything is going to be fine. And yeah, so we are we are at a very interesting point. Actually, what's funny is, like, since I got into Bitcoin, I've always thought like the system is going to collapse next year. It can't possibly. The Ponzi is about to blow. And it's always been like 2 years from now, 2 years. And then during COVID, I was like, okay, now for sure it's going to blow. Like, with the money printing of COVID and with the lockdowns and the economy shutting down, like, people are going to revolt, the banks are going to crash. Still not happening. And, when is the system going to collapse? It seems like there is an endless amount of, the Ponzi still has some legs, right? The Ponzi still has some legs. So I'm not sure. And, the situation, like in Canada, for example, where I'm from originally, like, it's so bad. You can't, the level of debt that we're doing, and you're like thinking, but how are we ever going to pay all this this back, and like inflation is out of control, and we're rapidly going towards a level of Argentina. So it's kind of like shocking to me to be like, I can't believe the system is lasting this long. But I think 2 years. I'll say it again. No. But realistically, like we're heading towards a really, really bad situation there.
Because
Economically,
at some point it needs
geopolitically.
to blow up, right? Like it just can't
has
go
to.
infinite. Like the pressure cooker can only, have that much pressure until the lid smashes off and goes
And
off.
it's right now it's a demographic issue, right? So why? And I've had this conversation at a meetup, very controversial conversation actually. But in Canada has mass immigration, and we're talking about like, I can't remember the numbers, but if you add up the students and the temporary workers, which are all basically permanent migrants, right? Nobody goes to Canada as a temporary worker and leaves. There's always a path to residency and then to citizenship. We're talking about like 1 million people per year. Canada's like 42 million people. I still remember, like, sometimes I'm like, aren't we 30? I thought we were 30 million, and now we're 42 million. That was like when I was in high school.
Not that long ago.
When I was in high school, it was 30 million people, right?
That's compound interest right there.
It's almost a 50% increase in like my lifetime,
crazy.
and it's not, people are not being born, right? It's obviously mass migration. And why? It's because the Ponzi needs to be fed. The Ponzi needs to be fed.
True.
And like, and we're not reproducing fast enough. So I think that's going to be the main trigger, which is like governments have realized that we need more meat for the meat grinder, because those condos that are being built, and like most of like a lot of Western economies are built. The banking system is built on real estate being used for like as
debt,
a bank,
basically, just giving out interest to build new shit to enslave
exactly.
people.
And that also spurs like employment and consumption and all sorts of things. So the fate of the economy is very much, at least in Canada, but I'm sure probably close.
Look at Europe. Look what's happening in Europe. Like the reason I left Europe is like it's getting insane. And like this whole Merkel move fucking 10 years ago when it was like, open the doors. Come on, guys. Like, come. Like, we'll give you a better future. Like, look at Germany nowadays. Look at Italy. Look at France. What's happening? I mean, you've seen it yourself.
There is no agenda, I think, conscious to like destroy native European populations. I think the agenda, although maybe, but I think the main driver is propping up the banking system and propping up the Ponzi, the government Ponzi, because like you need to have people buying these condos, buying these houses, and paying taxes. Like if kids are not having, if our grandkids are not having babies, then like we can't retire and the Ponzi implodes, right? And there's only two ways out of that, right? Print more money or bring in more immigrants. And I think we are at a point where like the mass migration thing, it's causing tension. If something's going to blow up, right? Something's going to pop. We've already seen it in the States. The States are like, fuck this, deport them. Like we don't want immigration anymore. And that
Paris had how many of these, like nonstop every other weekend, there was like massive violent protests out there and all across Europe.
And like that used to be a fringe right-wing view, but now it's like it's sipping in the mainstream. It's like, no, we need to close the doors. Like we can't have more people. And so if that stops, then the system is fucked, right? So if mass immigration stops, the system is fucked. So they're gonna have to print money. I think Canada's really, really interesting because we're in such a dire state that we need to do both. We need to massively import new NPCs basically to feed the system, and also we're printing money, and also we're taking a lot of debt. If the interest rates start rising again, like, you know, the whole thing is going to blow up. So they can never raise the rates. Basically, interest rates can never be raised. Otherwise, the entire economy is going to collapse. So you have like these central bankers, and then these politicians, and then these international organizations that are twisting the wheels, trying to keep the Ponzi afloat, really desperately, actually, like in a very desperate fashion. And they're kind of like making it work a little bit, but at the slightest imbalance of one of their dials, like something is going to blow up. So unfortunately, what could they do to keep the system running?
Just print, but they can't print into infinity because then it's going to be Zimbabwe dollar all over the world.
I mean, they can certainly print,
but it's gonna end one day, Francis. Right? You know, my father, which was my role model, he always said a great quote. He said, "No empire lasted forever. Like if Rome fell, every other empire is gonna fall. And this American empire that we're living in today, that got started in 1916 with the whole founding of Federal Reserve and this whole globalization, or as my father likes to call it, Americanization. Like this whole world is like playing to the tune of the flute of the guys that run the Fed. Like it needs to collapse. Like it's inevitable. But you know, my father for 35 years was saying the dollar is going to collapse, and everybody was telling him you're a psycho, like you're insane. It's this, no way. Like the dollar never. And maybe he didn't say like you 2 years, but he was like, in the next 10 years, like this Ponzi needs to fucking collapse. And it still hasn't collapsed. And who knows, maybe we won't even see the day of it collapsing, but at some point it needs to collapse. And for that day, we want to have the infrastructure ready for people to have an alternative. Because once the dollar collapses, I don't think those guys that are pulling the strings will just say, call it a day and be like, okay, we're done. They're going to bring in a new Ponzi, dollar 2.0, whatever the fuck they call it, CBDC, no CBDC, whatever they want to call it. But at that point, it's like you have a choice. Do you go with this new fake system, or do you just fully opt out and join the sovereign people that have been telling you for ages, guys, the fucking raft is in the water, jump in, but you were too busy listening to the music.
And you know what's really interesting with the US dollar is I think that the Trump administration and entourage are aware of the Fiat Ponzi, and
are they going to drain the swamp? Is that what you're saying, Francis?
I think they're aware of the Ponzi, and I think they're either explicitly or implicitly, they might actually know and discuss internally the Ponzi scheme nature of the global financial system. But I think that their strategy is going to be, it is a Ponzi, but there's only one Ponzi in this fucking town, and it's our Ponzi. So the euro, you're fucked. China, you're fucked. Russia, you're fucked. South America, you're fucked. Africa, you're fucked. Like, our Ponzi is the only Ponzi, and then the only treasuries that you can hold are going to be U.S. treasuries. Like, you know, the thing that they're doing with stable coins, you know, that kind of tells me that
they're whoring around, no?
They want more money to come into the Ponzi, and they've identified stable coins as being something that can feed the Ponzi. Somehow, they have not yet figured out that Bitcoin completely negates that. And I think it's because like the advisors of the Trump administration are just straight up lying to him. They're telling them that, no, actually, Bitcoin is not competition with the US dollar. It's actually, you know, no. Whereas
the crypto tsar is probably not doing a good job, is he?
No, exactly. And I think these are, you know, kind of like useful idiot crypto people also that are around him, but they do understand the Fiat Ponzi. I think like they do understand the Fiat Ponzi. They just don't understand how like catastrophic it is. And so I think like what's going to happen is the US dollar is going to be the last Ponzi standing. And then it's going to be a battle against the US dollar. Like there's like a diverging view in the Bitcoin system, the Bitcoin community, where I'm seeing, for example, a man that I respect tremendously, Pierre Rochard, right? Pierre Rochard has adopted the view of like the financialization of Bitcoin, and then the Wall Streetization of Bitcoin, and the nation state adoption of Bitcoin. And he has a really interesting argument for that. And I'm not talking about Bitcoin treasury companies. That's a separate thing. Like those are scams, like full-blown Ponzi schemes. But like generally, there's an argument, and like I've seen him post this on Twitter, and I found it very interesting. And a very legitimate and good argument was that I don't want the U.S. system to collapse. I want a soft landing, basically, right? So some Bitcoiners, they say like we must marry like the nation state and the existing system with Bitcoin, because if it collapses like it's about to collapse, then people will die, they will kill themselves, they will become opioid addicts, there will be murders. There will be all sorts of bad things.
Those things already today, Francis? Like, I don't want to sound like a green guy, but like, I would personally rather we hit like there's blood in the streets for a short period of time, like cleansing 2, 3, 4, even a decade, but we get rid of the cancer. Then we're treating the cancer like water and oil doesn't mix.
And I'm on your camp. I'm on the camp of let's fucking burn it down, and then it's gonna fucking hurt. Rip off the Band-Aid. It's kind of like, you know, fentanyl addict will never slowly taper off of fentanyl and be a functional fentanyl. It's like saying like, instead of being a homeless crackhead fentanyl addict on the street, I'm gonna take very small doses of fentanyl and get a job, and like I'm gonna somehow no. Like you need to stop, go cold turkey, and then you're going to fucking have diarrhea and you're going to puke for a week. You might even die of a heart attack from withdrawal, but that's the only way that you're going to become a new person. I'm definitely on that camp, but then there's two ways where it could go, right? I think we're heading towards the catastrophic demise of the system, and then a period of very, very volatile activity. There might be wars, there might be, and we're kind of seeing that being like, there might be some civil wars, some kinetic wars, some cultural
Cyber
wars, some psyops. We're seeing the beginnings of that. Or there's going to be a marriage of Bitcoin to the banking system and the state system, and then it's going to be kind of a weird thing where there's like a soft landing, and Bitcoin will keep this existing system somewhat alive. I think that's a very humane approach to the problem, where you're like, I know, and I think like a lot of people, they know that we are better off burning the system, but we also don't want to be bloodthirsty warmonger. And I've seen that, but it's also like, okay, look at human history on a large historical scale. Like there's no radical
road.
That
there was no soft landing.
There is no soft landing, right? And Max Kaiser has this great quote: "You can't taper a Ponzi. You can't taper the Ponzi. You can't slowly roll back the Ponzi, and you can't have a less harmful Ponzi. The Ponzi only accelerates in terms of harm and systemic risk." So I think that's where Bitcoin is heading, and I think that's also why a lot of people they're afraid to get into Bitcoin. Like we're shouting in the wind, is because hey, like if you realize that the boat is sinking, it means that you actually need to get off your ass and do something about it. Whereas a lot of people, they're like, as long it's almost as if like, well, everybody else is sinking. Is it really like, what I mean? It's like
follow the herd. As long as you have your Netflix and Uber food delivered to your door, it's fine. Like, who cares?
Exactly. I've seen this kind of philosophy. It's like, well, the boat can't be sinking because nobody else is jumping out the boat. You know what I mean? Like, it's not possible. Like, if the boat was sinking, Francis, like, we would all be jumping out of the boat. Well, and then you say, well, I'm jumping out of the boat, and these 3 other guys are jumping out of the boat. And sure, maybe it's only like 2% of the passengers that are jumping out of the boat, but we're definitely jumping out of the boat, and like, it's pretty comfortable on the life raft. And that's the cool thing also about Bitcoin. It's like, well, like, you can not jump out of the boat, but also, my purchasing power coincidentally also increases 10x every 5 years.
The boat keeps getting bigger, and more advanced.
Yeah. The party is great over there, and like the party wasn't so great like 10 years ago, but now it's popping. There's tons of hot babes on the boat over there. So what's interesting about Bitcoin is that there's like this quote. What is it? It's like you can ignore something, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring something, right? Whereas Bitcoin punishes you by Bitcoin will just punish you because I have also this other quote that I love, which is like, we all get Bitcoin at the price we deserve, right? So and then that's like my new argument to a lot of people, where if I'm seeing that people are not receptive to Bitcoin, fuck off. Like, and I was just like, well, fine.
No time
like,
to waste.
Don't get Bitcoin now. Like, you'll just get Bitcoin at 500K. That's fine. Like there's going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still going to be there when you like take your time. Just pay 5x more. It's okay, man. And that's also why I love being in Costa Rica, is because I don't get that ever. Man, I paid for my dude. Like, I just went to a new gym, and I'm telling the guy like, "Hey, do you accept Bitcoin?" And he's like, "No, but I should, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally. Like, download the app. Here you go. Bing, bang, boom, bing, boom. $80 for the month." And then I almost never, ever, ever have to convince anyone to use Bitcoin. I don't know why. Many people ask me like, why is it so easy to orange pill these people in Costa Rica? Part of it is because of the network effect in Bitcoin jungle, for example, is now so large that like you'll see like business cards, like on like, the ads on the street, like people have put the Bitcoin logo, like, we accept Bitcoin. So now it's almost
you see
as
it
if
everywhere. You're like an outcast not accepting Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. If you don't accept Bitcoin, and then I usually, it's like, you don't accept Bitcoin? Like, everybody accepts Bitcoin. Like, why don't you accept Bitcoin? And I love it. I almost was recording myself this morning, orange pilling the guy. I was trying to like, film our interaction. It didn't work, but it always goes like this. It's like, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? And they'll say like either yes or no. And then when they say no, either they're like, but I should, right? Or if they just say no, I ask them like, why not? And the answer is almost always the same. I don't have the app. I don't have the app. Right. And I'm like, well, I'll just,
Let's
can
get
you
it now.
give me your phone? Can I grab your phone? And I'll be like, okay, so here, Bitcoin Jungle, I type it in, and then I do the demo, and then I pay them with Bitcoin. I'm kind of like a bully. I just kind of like grab the phone and I'm like, I'll just do that for you. And then, they don't have time to think about it. I'm just like all over them, like showing them how it works. And then, what actually ends up being the aha moments for all these people is that they don't have to register for a Bitcoin wallet.
That's
Do
true.
you have any idea how hard it is for a Costa Rican person, especially in a rural area, to open a PayPal account? Like first of all, their business is not even incorporated. Many of the times it's just them, right? So they just don't even have it. Okay, fine. You're incorporated. What's your address? Well, the address is like 200 meters left at the big tree next to the gas station. That's their address. Like it's an actual Costa Rican thing. So, okay. And then, like, do you have this kind of business license? Do you have bank statements and this and that? And then you're trying to, get a PayPal account. And then PayPal's like, well, all of these documents are in Spanish. Okay, so you have to like get them translated. And then you have to dude, it takes like 6 months.
So you have to
right?
drive like 6 hours to get to like the lawyer to translate it. And
It's a fucking nightmare, man. It's really, really hard. And
Crazy.
then opening a PayPal account or like a bank account or like getting a credit card processor is the hardest part of opening a business, I think, probably, right? It's the most difficult part. Whereas the Bitcoin wallet is just like you download the app and then you click and then it's done. I mean, people are like, holy fuck. And there's not about sound money and it's not about like censorship resistance. It's just about like the permissionless
ease of
aspect
use,
of it.
the onboarding process.
Right. And what's really interesting is that it's easy, but also it's permissionless. And even though they're not thinking about permissionlessness from an intellectual standpoint, like they don't consider, like the average Costa Rican, they don't think like I'm a slave to the government because I have to file paperwork. Like they're just doing their shit and they're not, some of them are, but like they're just regular people. Like normally in order to get paid, you need to ask permission via all of these forms and all of this paperwork and all of this garbage. Whereas with Bitcoin, like you can get paid without asking anyone for permission. You can pay without asking anyone for permission. So they love it. So that's why like, and you mentioned at the beginning, like that's also been like a huge part of my journey has been like trying myself and put myself in the position of post hyper Bitcoinization. Like I want to be I want my life to be almost like performance art in a way. Like I want to be as free. I want to be as free as possible just to see what it looks like what it feels like. It's almost, and I also post about it on Twitter and I talk about it because like I'm trying to display and create this sovereign individual life, right? I really care about putting that theory into
practice.
A concrete story, like that's real and show people like, and because I have left the matrix, I have turned from a normie into a sovereign individual. I think very successfully. I think I'm not at the point where there's improvement into my like sovereignty that I need to do that I'm working on. But I think I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I'm a very sovereign man. I think I am. I hope I am. I can improve, but I've done a very, very good job. And it's like, you can do that. Like you can't just do things. You can't just free yourself, right? There is a roadmap and it's not hopeless and there's tricks and there's tools.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy, but then it's like, like in when they conquered the West in the United States, right? Like the first dude to do it, it was like 90% chance you're going to die. Like you're almost for sure going to die. And then once you get there, there's nothing waiting for you, right? And then I think like as early Bitcoiners and like trailblazers, like our goal, our mission is to go there and take notes and build the bridge and build the road and build the inn and build the station and build the hospital. And then so that like to make it a little bit easier for the people that are following us, right? Because like we obviously have something inside of us And by we, I mean you, I mean me, and you know who we're talking about. We're talking about the Bitcoin. There's like maybe like 10 to 20,000 of us, like people who are actually
Bitcoin purists.
Bitcoin purists, and like I would say even like people who care about Bitcoin not just as money, but as something that's a mission for them, right? So like let's call them missionaries, not to use the bull Bitcoin term, but just generally speaking. So we are taking the hard path, right? We are trailblazing the hard path, trying to make it a little bit easier for the people that follow us. And it's like I think that's like it's all, you know, and but the thing is, if you take the hard path, you get the reward of the hard path, right? Which is like, well, you know, if you went to California 1807, well, you now have like 20,000 acres of land for yourself.
That's true.
That are worth today like trillions of dollars, basically like billions of dollars. So we take the hard path out of ideology, because also like the trailblazers, that it's the same thing. The pioneers, like they had like the manifest destiny of the United States, you know, and like living away from government interference, and like the concept of like man must conquer nature, and like I will do that. But also you have the reward of when you're first, you know, you're early. So it's really interesting that Bitcoin is also like the world's first perpetually self-funding revolution, where like, you know, Bitcoin doesn't need outside funding in order to progress because of NGU, essentially because of the
That's
scarcity.
crazy. I never thought about it actually until you mentioned it now.
And what's hilarious, and that's also why like I'm not against Wall Street people, but I'm not against Michael Saylor buying Bitcoin.
No.
And I'm not against like people pumping our bags. I think it's a little gross sometimes to just think about Bitcoin as just number go up, but I'm not against it. And it does benefit us because the price of Bitcoin is an important metric. First of all, it's an important metric for the security of Bitcoin, because the higher the price, the more the hash rate, the more the amount of skin in the game, the harder it is to attack. People think that like having BlackRock and MicroStrategy makes Bitcoin easier to attack. I mean, there's whole nuances there, but generally speaking, the higher the Bitcoin price, I think it's not a linear progression, because Bitcoin is very, 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 very secure already. So it's not like it's not, you know, Bitcoin is
hash
like
rate in the last 3 years, because I'm getting into mining now myself. I checked that it like 6x'd in the last 3 years. Like the price didn't 6x, but like it's parabolic. We're in the zeta hashes, and it's not going to stop anytime sooner. Governments now, when they plug in their renewables, it's just going to carry on going. It's virtually impossible to roll back the chain and manipulate it.
And you know, there are some centralization forces in Bitcoin, like that a lot of people will talk about and advocate against in the space. Like, you know, like
we know who those are.
The Ocean Knots, the Bitcoin Mechanic, and there's tons. And I'm in the same general mindset as them, but also I think because I touched so many parts of the Bitcoin space and I've been there for a while. I mean, these guys are all OGs too. I'm not that concerned. I think Bitcoin is very, very decentralized. And I think that it is important to always be watchful. So that's why I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the Ocean and Knots people that are constantly, you know, like shouting from their soapbox, questioning and raising awareness. But I think Bitcoin is very, very decentralized, and we are not yet at a point where I think we've won and Bitcoin is unstoppable, but we're pretty close. Like we're pretty close. Like I think, and you know, if the US government was, and the thing is like, because for some reason the US government has like backed off of Bitcoin, I think we're like going to reach that point of no return soon. But let's not kid ourselves. Like, you know, like the central bankers and the globalist evil elites, they're not like, oh god damn it, like Bitcoiners won, it's over. Like no, of course not. Like I think they just haven't fully grasped how serious we are, and like
they think we're still irrelevant. They think we're like a bunch of nerds sitting at like computers and like coding on Linux. But we're
no, they haven't caught on. I think some of them may have, but like I think mostly they're still thinking that it's gonna get hacked or something. It's gonna blow up somehow by itself, and they don't need to do anything. So we have to be watchful, because Bitcoin is an organism, right? So nobody controls Bitcoin. Just like, you know, like the cells in your body, like, you know, your brain doesn't control all the cells in your body. It's independent organs, and there's this whole thing is
That's
happening
true.
almost. It's like an ecosystem,
But
like the
a
jungle.
disease can kill you
Yes, the
if it's
disease can
lethal
kill
enough,
us.
right?
The disease can kill us 100%, and it's just like an ecosystem, right? Like
Mm.
nobody controls the ecosystem, but individually, if the white blood cells of the
We all
human
make it
body
up.
stop working, like we're gonna die, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as
Those
we
are
are
the node runners, the white blood cells, right? In reference.
exactly, and it's the node runners, and it's the miners, and it's the community. It's so there's many mechanisms that people can do to protect Bitcoin, whether that's protecting themselves with running a node,
Yeah.
whether it's building tools that make running nodes easier, but also culturally speaking, like the Bitcoin culture and narrative, it does have an impact. It does.
Of course.
You know, there is some kind of political aspect to Bitcoin, which is, it's not a democracy. Like, people don't vote in Bitcoin for how Bitcoin should work or where it's
Well,
getting.
your only vote is choosing what client to run. That's as far as your vote goes.
Exactly. The vote is which software you use and how you use it. And like, as long as there is, because if everybody, for example, if every single person gave up self-custody and all the Bitcoins would be held on Coinbase, Bitcoin fails.
It's
right?
gone. Yeah.
So let's start with that, right? Do we agree that if every single Bitcoiner was leaving their coins on Coinbase, it would fail? Yes, of course, because then
100%.
Coinbase can decide the rules of Bitcoin. Like, they can fork Bitcoin, right? If a one entity owns all the Bitcoin, yes, they can definitely fork Bitcoin. I've heard people say like, oh, it doesn't even matter. Even if MicroStrategy owned all 21 million Bitcoins, it wouldn't matter. No, it would. Because like, they are the ones who are interacting with the miners. They are the economic node. If they can UASF, essentially, they can create a fork of Bitcoin and declare it to be something else, and they can change the rules. And if there was only one node in the network that's also Coinbase, Bitcoin would fail. If there was only one mining pool, Bitcoin would fail. And especially if there's one custodian, one node, one mining pool, Bitcoin is dead. So let's start with that premise that it is possible for Bitcoin to die if it becomes too centralized. Yeah. So individually, if I'm running a node myself, and if I'm mining a little bit at home myself, and if I'm holding my keys myself, we can agree intellectually, just like epistemologically almost, that I am making a little bit of a difference, right?
Yeah.
And we don't need everybody to be self-custodial and running nodes for Bitcoin to survive. So Luke Jr., he's going to say like, if at least one person is not running a node, then Bitcoin's dead. There's like, he doesn't say that, but there's like
extreme.
But there is a realistic like thing where it's like, all Bitcoin needs is like enough people to care. And how much is enough?
It's like that meme, right? Like with the plank, when like one guy says like, I'm not listening to this bullshit, walks off. Like, if something like 3 to 5% of people just turn away from the system collapses. We don't need 80%, which is crazy.
And a good example of that is the fork wars. And that's probably like, you probably got into Bitcoin right at around that time.
I did. Mid 2017.
Yeah. And then, with the fork wars, what was really interesting, it's like you had, again, the bad actor in the space, Coinbase.
Two camps. Big blockers and small blockers.
But the big blockers were like
Coinbase, Wuhan, Antminer,
Wall Street, Silicon Valley, Chinese miners, and like, it was very divided between pretty much the institutional, what would today be like a little bit more like the Bitcoin treasury company, MicroStrategy, BlackRock type people. And then, the cypherpunks. It was, this divide already existed, this tension already existed. And their argument was basically like, you guys are slowing down Bitcoin progress. We need to like get all the normies into Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. And then they tried to change Bitcoin and attack it. Like, and, despite what the revisionist history of these people, where they were just trying to help. No, they were trying to take over Bitcoin. They were attacking Bitcoin. They knew they were attacking Bitcoin. And
it was not block wars. It was power wars. They wanted all the power to dictate.
It was power wars. It wasn't about the block size. It wasn't about the blocks. It was about power. Yeah. It was about control. And there was the two belief systems were that Bitcoin needs an elite leadership consortium, like an industry group, basically, right? So like we need leaders. And the other group was like, we don't need leaders. That was essentially it, right? And the people who thought that Bitcoin needed leaders were also casually proposing themselves to be the leaders, right? But they wanted to, like, the mindset was like, well, Bitcoin has been alive for 6, 7, 8 years. It's time to grow up and it's time to organize ourselves with governance. Like we need governance in Bitcoin. So they tried to attack Bitcoin because to propose a governance mechanism onto Bitcoin is to attack it.
Yes.
That is the attack that we need to prevent. Nobody must be able to govern Bitcoin, whether that is one person or a group of 30 or a group of 200. It doesn't matter. As long as there's a group or a cluster of people that are controlling Bitcoin, we're fucked. So they tried to attack it. And then the people who resisted were very few, actually. It was not a lot of people. It was probably like a dozen, maybe 20 companies that like pushed back. And, I would say somewhere around like maybe a few thousand individuals that like really pushed back. But
one of them was Luke. Was it?
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Luke was.
It's funny how history plays around, and now we're in this other like core versus nots and like changing this whole rules. And he's like,
to a large degree, it's the same people that were the same people that were against the Bitcoin takeover that were actually on the side of core, because back then core was the resistance.
Yeah.
Core was the resistance. Bitcoin Core was the resistance. Was Bitcoin Core, and then because the other ones had a fork of Bitcoin Core that they called Bitcoin 2x anyway.
Yeah.
But all it took was for a small but very highly motivated minority of individuals to make a stand. And by the way, that moment, that period of time really, really shaped. Oh my God, that is the thing that had the most impact on me in Bitcoin, because that's when I realized that bull Bitcoin at that time was like, I don't know, like a couple years old, three. Yeah. And that's when I realized like bull Bitcoin was not running a node. We weren't using our own infrastructure. We didn't even have a say in this thing because we didn't have control. So that's where I started my whole journey of building the infrastructure from scratch. And that's also where I kind of like really, really understood like, okay, we need like getting other people to self-custody is selfless, but also it's in my own self-interest. Like I want other people to have self-custody because I don't want to have a centralizing force that can potentially attack Bitcoin by being so centralized. So like, there is this altruistic part to like promoting self-custody and decentralization, but also like I want the Bitcoin to resist these kinds of attacks for, I don't know, like I'm thinking about 250 years. Like, that would be a great. If Bitcoin can last for 250 years before something happens, like that's great. I'm not saying Bitcoin is. I'm not fanatic enough to think that Bitcoin's going to last for like 100,000 years. That would be great.
I've been talking about 1,000. I said on numerous episodes that I see Bitcoin as a decade. Like I could see it as a 1,000-year-old technology.
1,000 years, it's doable. It's doable. Like I'll be happy with like 5 generations. I think with 5 generations we can achieve. Bitcoin can change humanity forever, right?
Go back to the true golden age.
If we can have a 200-year golden age instead of having like
beauty. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yes.
Everything just operating on Bitcoin standard, where everything gets cheaper with time, as it should be.
Which is like
crazy.
The amount of progress. Yeah, dude, like it's crazy, and it's impossible to comprehend because we've been conditioned with inflation for so long. Like
we've been fed these pills from the minute we're born, like to education, to feeding, to economics, to everything. Where it's just full Ponzi scheme in all things, not just the dollar. Like the dollar's like the king on the castle, but like everything has been like pushing us.
We've never felt, because what's crazy is that the technological and internet revolution happened at the same time as fiat debasement, right? So 70s and 80s, that's where the fiat shit like really it existed since the First World War, obviously, but it really picked up.
That was
like
rock and roll and hard drugs age, if I remember. I wasn't born there, but like people were like, look this way, don't look that way, what we're doing with the money system. It's like, go rock and roll. Dude, 100%. And like, dude, that's when the PSYOP started and the CIA and all that shit. And then at the same time, you have the internet and computers and everything. So like, we think that progress is at a certain pace, and that's our baseline, but that's with fiat shit, right? So like, if there was no fiat, like, we would probably be cryogenically freezing ourselves. We would probably have, dude, what, like, and it's like, what else could we have done with massive deflation, right? And
That is the big
We would
one
be
of
an
my also,
interplanetary system, like a species for a long time without fiat, potentially.
I think almost certainly. I think
Yeah.
almost certainly. And like, because people underestimate the power of deflation. And also like, that's also something that is probably the biggest psyops of all time. The biggest psyops of all time is probably that inflation is natural and good.
To anybody listening to this and thinking that Francis and Gigi lost the plot, I would highly advise you to read The Price of Tomorrow by our good friend Jeff Booth. Like, read that book. A lot of things that we just spoke about with Francis are going to be answered. Yeah, I mean, logically, if you get better at something, why does it not get cheaper? Like, why is everything always getting more expensive when you're better at it? It doesn't make sense. It's crazy.
Of course, it doesn't make sense unless you have been thoroughly programmed to accept that as being something that makes sense, because it really doesn't make any sense. And the only thing that I disagree with, the main thing I disagree with Jeff's book and Jeff's thesis is that I think that there is always going to be deflation. Deflation is not infinite where nothing costs anything anymore, right? Because, for example, like,
it's to a certain point. It's like nano chips. You can only make them that small. Like, they can't just go infinite, right?
Of course, because you cannot ever, time is finite, right? So like, and then, you can create high-rise buildings that go up like a kilometer high and can house like 1 million people, but you can never recreate like a plot of land overlooking the surf beach with a sunset and a waterfall. Even in 10,000 years, like, you can 3D print it, but it's never going to be the real thing. And like, there's also like a scarcity aspect where, for example, let's say that you can replicate the Mona Lisa atom by atom. From a functional standpoint, it is the Mona Lisa. Like, there is literally zero physical difference between the original Mona Lisa and your copy. Are they going to be the same price?
No.
Of course.
But that's like today, another example, like a Louis Vuitton handbag for your lady, which costs like $5,000. You go to China, the copy is exactly the same, in the same bag, in the same invoice, but it's not the same.
Dude, right? And like the fake Rolexes are just as good. By the way, they're just as good. And like, they're not like $20. Like you can get a real fake Rolex for like $2,000, and it is functionally. And I think even the Rolex engineers like would have a very, very hard time figuring out that it's a fake one, right? But of course, there's a difference. There's brand, there's image, there's beauty.
But the person who buys that Rolex, it's not about him saving money. It's like his own like achievement, his experience, which going back to what you said with Bull Bitcoin, it's about the experience. It's not giving your clients the best fee rate or smallest spread. Yeah, those things play a role, but it's the overall experience. So the same thing with this analogy, that person's always going to go buy that $50,000 Rolex because it's not the price tag, it's the feeling of him owning the real thing.
Absolutely. And that is not something that will ever go away, I think. But I think we're going to get to something where like things should be very, very, very cheap. And like at this point in humanity, like it should not be hard to feed yourself good food. Like in 2025 100%. With the technology that we have and with like, just like agricultural the whole organization of the supply chain and scale and machines that we have. And like, if we didn't have like fiat clown bullshit, it should be very, very cheap to eat like decent meat and decent vegetables anywhere from anywhere in the world. You should be able to eat steak in fucking rural China. Like if we had free markets and no central banking, we would be fixing other issues other than housing and food. We would be fixing issues like transportation.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like aging, like space travel, like
disease, many different
like energy,
things.
Right? So instead of struggling to survive on food and like finding food, we would be thinking about how to harness the energy of the universe in order to achieve things that like, can we move a mountain? Like, can we fucking move a mountain? Can we like, do things that are incredible? So we haven't really escaped as a civilization. Like we haven't really reached like the escape velocity of technological progress that we should have because of fiat. So
because we got corrupted. Like look at the Egyptian. If those guys could have put those, like, I don't know how much one stone of like the pyramid is. It's like in the tons, every single stone. And they moved it back then. And we cannot, even today with our mastermind architects, they don't know how those pyramids were built. It's just like
Dude,
how did we get so dumb?
Somehow we became less good at building roads.
Yeah. They get fixed every few months and they're still full of potholes. Because it's Fiat system. Because they make
them
kind of
shit. A joke.
So you carry on redoing them, right?
Dude, and it's kind of a joke, but it's also not a joke. It's also pretty fucking crazy, right? That somehow
and sad.
It's sad and it's crazy. And like, it's what's really funny is that I had this conversation with a couple of friends where some people truly believe that the buildings that were built in the late 19th century were built by another civilization, the Tartarians stuff. And I kind of get where they're coming from because it's like, did we fucking build that? Have you looked at my condo? My condo building fucking sucks. Like, it's not possible. And it's also like with the moon landing,
yeah.
I fully believe that the moon landing was real. I think we went on the moon. I know this is kind of controversial because I'm in like a conspiracy kind of space. I am a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, I'm a conspiracy doctor. But I do think the moon landing was real. And then, but the counter argument, because of many reasons that, the mirrors on the moon and stuff, the lasers. But the arguments that a lot of people have, it's like, well, if the moon landing was real, we would have been to the moon like 1,000 times already, and then we would be to Mars. Yeah, but like what happened since the moon landing is fucking Fiat bullshit, right? And it's like, and there's all sorts of other factors, but also like the level of testosterone just collapsed, and other things, and like women are now in control of a lot of things, right? So you don't have high testosterone fucking adventuring men with sound money who are in control of like creating space rockets and going to the moon. Like now
it's all risk averse. Oh, that's too risky, guys.
Right.
Guys. Let's descale it. Let's descale the risk there.
Our civilization has a little bit collapsed, and just anecdotally, this is so funny. Like the Calgary Stampede is this rodeo in Calgary, and it's a very based conservative event that has. And then the slogan this year was "Make safety your game plan," and I thought that was so symbolic of like, it's not hold on at all costs, and it's not like grab life by the horns or something. Like the slogan was "Make safety your game plan," and I'm like, God damn it. We're so fucking soft. What the fuck is this? Like, and is that tied to fiat money? Yes, of course it is. It's not entirely just that, but it's a whole combination of things that have easy money as like a root cause. And there's different layers. There's different like levels to which easy money has caused other sociological and cultural problems. Like, testosterone probably has to do with other things that it's not just like cultural. There's probably something chemical involved or whatever it is. There's different things, but like, I really do think that like easy money is at the root of all these things where like
fiat's the root of all evil, right? It's not money, it's the fiat that's the root.
Of course. Money is the root of all good, which is crazy. Money.
I have it. Shout out to me next. I've got it right here on the pendant. The capital is the root of all good, whereas fiat is the capital, the root of all evil.
At a very fundamental, like I've had like many religious beliefs, and I was raised a Catholic. I'm still technically a Catholic, still technically a Christian. But then, I'm on paper, baptized and taking the rites, the sacraments. But when you think about like, and I've had this thought where I was thinking about the ethics and morality of shitcoins and of currency exchange, and there's like a passage in the Bible that I really like. It's Jesus's cleansing of the temple, where the temple in Jerusalem is being taken over by merchants, but also by money changers. And I think money changers was probably the big problem. And like, what is the universal thing that is good, and what is the universal thing that is evil? And I think it comes down to building and or destroying, right? So the forces, the things that build, the act of creation is fundamentally good, and the act of destruction is fundamentally bad. Sorry, my cameras. So creation is good, destruction is bad, and I think this is something that like we can all like generally
relate to
across all religions, across all creeds. Like when you boil it down to that like really, really makes sense to me. And then how do you create? Like, what is the what? So okay, let's agree to that. Like, creation is good, destruction is bad. We know what destruction is. Destruction is deceit, it's violence, it's chaos, it's disorder, it's sabotage, it's lying, it's all of these derivatives of destruction. But like, how do you create? So how, like, if you agree that creation and building shit is like overall good, how do you create? And the method of creation at scale is capital. So I think capital is the root, maybe not of all good, but capital is the mechanism by which good is brought about into the world. So yeah, capital is the root of all good. That was also one of my other epiphanies, where I actually had this thought. Someone asked me at a party late one night in like 2017, and it's like, he told me something like, I'm telling him that shitcoins are Ponzi schemes because, like, because you're only trying to get rich and sell it to someone else. And he's like, well, isn't that what you're doing with Bitcoin too? Like, aren't you like holding Bitcoin, like hoping that someone else will buy it so you can dump on them? And I actually, like, I was like, holy fuck, like, am I doing that? And then that's when I realized, like, no, because I am not going to dump fiat. I am not buying Bitcoin now to sell it to you later. I am buying Bitcoin now for me because it is cheaper for me in terms of calories and seconds. How many calories and how much seconds does it take me today to acquire one Bitcoin? It's cheaper for me than it is for future me. So I'm buying Bitcoin now because I can get more for the same energy that I expand now than my future self. So I'm not trying to dump on other people. And my other big red pill or moment of enlightenment was then I realized that currency exchange is a zero-sum game. Okay? So
someone wins, someone loses.
Yes, exactly. In every commercial transaction where there is no fraud, there is no deceit, and there's no violence, it's a win-win transaction, right? If the information is correct and there's, like, if I sell you a chair, like, you gain, I gain, we both gain. It's free. A transaction without coercion and without deceit is inherently not zero sum. Like we both gain something that we didn't have before, which is incredible. It's just great. Like the world progresses by this one transaction because we both gain something from the same things that we had, because we had different valuations of it, and they allow us to do different things. And that is true for every single transaction except currency exchange. In a currency exchange transaction, 100% of the time, someone loses. If I exchange euros with US dollars, one of us is going to lose, one of us is going to win. Yep. So the existence of multiple currencies, and every one of those transactions is a destructive act. Let's put it that way. Normally, a transaction where we both win is a constructive act, and therefore it's objectively good. But every single transaction in a currency exchange transaction is a destructive act. It is inherently evil. So that is why, like, that whole idea of, like, so for me, the existence of one single currency worldwide is an objective moral good, because it eliminates from the universe transactions which I consider to be destructive, because at best they are zero sum for someone, but also they are not zero sum. They are less than zero sum because there is also someone who is taking a fee parasitically from that transaction, which that fee, a rent seeker, and that fee is not something that should exist. It's, of course, we understand, of course, like I sell Bitcoin. I am a currency exchanger, and that's where the irony of the whole thing is, because I am a currency exchanger. I am a money changer at the market here, and I hope
But you're the raft dealer. You're a UTXO dealer with rafts. Yes. You're giving people the saving raft, like to save themselves.
Like, the reason why I can morally justify being a money changer is because I am trying to obsolete my own profession, and I really do want to do that. But, like, so that's why, like, the shit corners that are saying, like, oh, well, why don't we have, like, this amount of currencies in the world? It's because it's wasteful. It's because and waste is destruction. It's destruction of time. It's destruction of energy. We're not talking about, like, throwing garbage in the ocean. That's not, like, what waste is. It's time and energy that could have been used for creation that was spent for nothing. And that's a fucking sin. Like, it's a sin. Like, time and money spent should be used for creation and not destruction. So there is almost like a religious and spiritual aspect to Bitcoin maximalism, right? And that was also, this is the theme, like talking about some of my red pills. And that's when I realized I used to think that Bitcoin maximalism is a practical observation of network effects. It's an economic reality where you can explain to someone like, the network effect of money is so strong because if you're on the wrong network, you die. Okay. So like if you like are using Facebook versus Twitter, you're on the wrong network, right? Twitter is the main one and Facebook is the one that's going down. But the consequences of choosing the wrong network are like not huge, minimal, right?
Yeah.
If you choose HTTPS over something else, if you choose MetaMask over DVD, like there's always consequences of being on the wrong network, but they're never like, but if you choose the wrong money and your money goes to zero, you fucking can't eat. You're dead, right? So
it's fatal.
So the network effect of money is extremely important and powerful because to go on think about like the Bcashers, right? When Bitcoin split into two networks with Bcash, Bitcoin did not split into two networks. Sorry. When
they split off on their own,
split off and claimed that they were Bitcoin, and you had this kind of like moment in time where people were saying like, that's actually the real Bitcoin, where there was this confusion. The people who chose the wrong network, their net worth went from 10% of Bitcoin, that's what it was worth, to like 1%, they lost 95% of their wealth, which effectively in some cases means that probably a bunch of them killed themselves and probably a bunch of them like ran out of food, like literally. Yeah. If you had put all your money in Bcash at that time, all your Bitcoin in Bcash, you would, or BSV is an even better example, like you're basically dead, right?
Satoshi's vision.
Right. No, exactly. So if you think about it from a practical standpoint, you can say, all right, so Bitcoin is going to win for practical economic reasons, and it is inevitable. So therefore, you should get onto Bitcoin, from a rational perspective. And I used to think that, and then I switched to, no. Yes, that's correct, but also it must be the one currency. I went from it will be the one currency to it must be. It has to be, because otherwise we are wasting energy and time, which is a destructive act. And also it's the same general idea with fiat, where like we should be focusing on progressing. That is what I think like progress and creation is what separates us from animals. It is like human nature. Of course, we have a soul.
Animals have souls too. But what you said there, the creation and progression,
they have different. It's a different level, right? Like we're and like some animals create shit like beavers and shit like that. No, but like let's be honest, like we are the only ones who can actually create things and iterate upon that creation. Like
can get off this planet, literally.
Animals are stuck in a forever loop. Like there's no progress, right? And the progress is like it's like there's natural selection and stuff like that, but like. And there's ants, of course, whatever, they're changing the environment, but like not consciously, like the ants are not consciously fucking building a fucking highway, they're just doing that almost like.
And they're not nuking themselves.
They're not nuking themselves, and they are slaves to their genetic conditioning, right? Like, of course, they're building the nest, but they have no idea why they're building the nest. They're not questioning why they're not. There's not like an ant that's like, wait, what if we did this that way? It's a very long process of natural selection. Whereas we humans like are able to master and create, and anything that prevents that from happening is bad. And so fiat is bad, but also multiple shitcoins is bad. Right. So that's where you go to like the neck plus ultra maximalists, where it's like, it's not just fiat that's bad. Fiat is horrible because fiat is violence.
All the shit that's on top of it is bad.
Like fiat is violence and it's bad. Objectively, because it's enforced by violence and by the state, and it's deceit and fraud from the beginning.
Industrial complex is the one that's funneling the most fiat. Like that's winning the most contracts.
Of course. And like ultimately, the role of fiat is to pay for the army. And it's always been that since the dawn of time. Like if you don't have to pay, why has any state ever created and printed money? It's always to pay their soldiers at the end of the day. Then fiat always collapses when the soldiers refuse to accept the money as being real, because that's what happened to the Roman Empire and all empires. Once the empire prints the money, and then one day the soldier is like, actually, like that's not real money. Like I'm not gonna fucking fight for you. until you give me gold. Like, I want gold. I want gold because I want to buy wine and women, and your fake money is not giving me any wine and women at the market.
Can you imagine the future, Francis? And until I see that sats balance in my Sparrow wallet, I'm not picking up my AK. Like, it's done.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. It's like it's, and I'm not accepting MSTR stocks.
Let me check my Bull Bitcoin wallet. It's still empty. What the fuck? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, okay, if I can't withdraw the coin from Coinbase to an actual wallet to verify that it's real, I'm not fucking picking up the AK. Okay, I don't fucking believe you.
That's
right?
true.
So
where did this conversation end up?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, I'm kind of dying over here. I'm in my Canadian sweater, so I'm gonna have to go pretty soon. But I think this is the most important point actually that we're ending on. It's about like, what is my core belief and how has that changed? And like this the cypherpunk part of me and maximalist, like that's what defines me. I'm a cypherpunk Bitcoin maximalist. That's my title.
Yeah.
That's how I define myself. And the maximalist part for me is there is a quest, and the quest is to arrive at a point where there is one common standard of value, which is the best one that we could have in this point in time. I think, Bitcoin could have been designed in a different way. It could have been better from the start. Satoshi could have changed some things and made it better, but
could have been much worse as well.
It could have been much worse. It is what it is, and it's great and it's good enough.
That's
so
true.
we need to make this currency the global and only currency, and we need to keep it decentralized as a payment system as well, right? Because the problem with like stuff like gold, for example, it's that the currency was pretty good. Like, gold is a fucking great currency, but you cannot have a decentralized, censorship-resistant payment system over gold. It is not. Yeah. It is not possible. It does not scale because it's not digital natively. And in order to create digital gold, you cannot do that in a decentralized way. Only Bitcoin can be decentralized digital gold and have a censorship-resistant, cypherpunk, self-custody aspect to it. You cannot have that with a native physical commodity. It needs to be natively digital for that to even be possible. And the network effect and decentralized nature of Bitcoin is unique and irreproducible. Maximalism economically, cypherpunk from a transaction point of view. And this is my life. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that these two visions have become real. And I'm very, very blessed that I'm not doing this alone. And that's kind of the thing that, man, I have so many people on my team, and on my team, it's not my team, on our team. Like, we are a lot of people on our team, and we don't have
the 300 Spartans on a mission to
dude. And what's crazy is that there's no generals, there's no captains, there's no majors, there's no colonels, right? It's just we just show up at the same place at the same time.
We roll up and burn Fiat and destroy Fiat.
Yeah, exactly. And then we recognize each other through these memes, these signals, this language, and then we're able to recognize, okay, we have the same goal,
frequency.
We're the same frequency, and then how can we help each other? How can you help me? How can I help you? And like, it's all this like synergistic thing, and that's what keeps me so bullish on Bitcoin. And like, whether it's software, whether it's people in marketing, people in communications, whether it's lawyers, like everybody that I work with, almost all of them, almost every single person that I work with came to like gravitated around the mission of Bull Bitcoin, and just like spontaneously kind of like arrived in my field of view because we were at the same place and the same place intellectually, and we just met intellectually. And there's a lot more of us. And like, the one thing I'll end with, and that's been a common theme for me for the last 6 months, is that there is a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in Bitcoin. There's a lot of cringe, like, US government number go up, BlackRock, MicroStrategy, like, is Bitcoin becoming a corporate thing? Is the original vision of Bitcoin dead?
When SBR?
SBR, has Bitcoin been co-opted? Is Bitcoin dead? Is the soul of Bitcoin gone? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's very easy to think that because you're bombarded with noise. But what I have that is unique is I have the pulse of Bitcoin fucking nailed down, man. Like, because of course, I only have Bitcoin friends. Like, my life, I am a Bitcoin. I am a fucking UTXO at this point. It's like, I barely exist outside of Bitcoin. I'm lucky to have like a family that keeps me sane, but I am essentially Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of things that your listeners might not see because of my kind of like insider, the nature. I mean, I'm inside the Bitcoin community for so long, and I'm seeing, man, that the signal is very strong. So the noise is growing faster than the signal, but that doesn't matter as long as the signal also rises.
That's
the
true.
signal is sharp, and like
True.
if the cringe noise increases by 300% per year, but the noise, if the noise increases by 300% per year, so there's 300% more garbage out on Twitter every year, but the signal, which is like shit actually happening and building, is only increasing at 50% per year. You have the impression that the signal is going down, whereas it doesn't matter. What really matters is the absolute amounts of signal going up, and that's definitely happening. People are just gonna have to trust me on this, but I am so fucking bullish, man. And you saw it in Prague, like, like for example, when we were at that Bull Bitcoin dinner, at the steakhouse, that you look around and you're like, holy shit, like there's some serious freedom fighters in this room. And like, and what's really awesome? It's that we're mostly all friends in real life too. So there's like, it's a real brotherhood. It's a real, like, it's not an
it's the real wolf pack. It's not someone's trying to fuck someone over.
It's the new wolf pack. And like, dude, like, I know this guy's kids. I give him a birthday present. Like we are an actual brotherhood. And like, all of us would make a lot of sacrifices for the cause of Bitcoin. Some of us would make the ultimate sacrifice. Some of us wouldn't. But all of us are willing to make really huge sacrifices for the cause of Bitcoin. None of the bankers are willing to give up anything for the cause of fiat. Like the cause of fiat has very, very, very few defenders. You know what I mean? Like, and this is something that we've seen with like US soldiers that are returning from Iraq and from Afghanistan. Like Preston Pitch, for example, is a really good example. I don't know if you know his story. He told me his story.
He was a helicopter firefighter.
And when you're a soldier and you come back from Iraq and from Iran and from Afghanistan, where maybe you've killed people, and maybe you've killed young people, kids even, maybe you've blown up houses with hospitals and shit. Like you've done some horrible shit. And then you realize that what was fiat was your cause. You know what I mean? You were killing and dying for the cause of fiat. When you realize that, you're not like, fuck yeah, fiat. You're not happy about that. You become distraught and you're like, this is the worst fucking cause I could ever have fought for. So nobody will fight for the cause of fiat consciously, whereas people will fight for the cause of Bitcoin very consciously, very deliberately. So we are going to win for that reason.
I think this is the way how we end it. I mean,
all right, man.
It's crazy that it's been 2 hours, but like, man, we could have been going on for this for many more hours. I see even your camera is sweating because it keeps tilting down.
Exactly.
That's it. I want to thank you so much, brother, for coming on, sharing all of this. I mean, to all the listeners, this was one hell of this is probably the episode where I least spoke. I usually have my rants back and forth with the guest, but this was like, it was music to my ears. It got me so pumped up for everything that's happening. What is I guess to wrap it up, what is the best place that you want to send the listeners that kind of want to follow more what you're doing and get in touch and get involved?
Oh yeah. Well, as a new call to action, we are, by the time this podcast is published, it's probably going to be announced officially.
It's going to be October, so definitely it's going to be published.
So, great. So we're releasing Bull Bitcoin on iOS, so on Apple. So we've just been approved on iOS. We've released massive upgrades to the Bull Bitcoin wallet, which include like buying and selling Bitcoin natively directly in the mobile app, directly to your Coldcard, spending Bitcoin directly from your Coldcard or your hardware wallet, like tons and tons of improvements to a level where Bull Bitcoin wallet has been in development for like 2.5 years. We've changed a lot of things. So it was always kind of like a beta, kind of like low key kind of thing. But now we're ready to roll it out. And I think we've created probably the best mobile wallet ever. And possibly it's not as good now as it is in my head, how it's going to be in 6 months. But it's very fucking good. So please test it out. Download the Bull Bitcoin wallet on Android and iOS, and there is a Telegram group inside the wallet app. You can join our Telegram group, and that is where you complain and you tell me all the bugs and you tell me everything that's not right and everything that you want. And I promise you that we absolutely listen. We absolutely read all of
I
this
can
thing.
vouch for that.
Yeah.
I've been
and
following.
then like, we have eyes on this, and we take the feedback very seriously, and we're constantly improving. And we need people to tell us, we need testers, we need eyes on it. Help me make the best wallet of all time by telling me what is not going right for you, what you wish was there, even stuff like the colors. If you don't like this, whatever it is, just please give me feedback. I need your feedback because I think it's perfect. Okay. But I know it's not, because it's my baby. So I think it's perfect, but I need you to tell me why it's not perfect, and I'll fix it and I'll make it even more perfect.
I love it. Well, though, all of those listeners that have an iOS and are in the Apple ecosystem, go ahead, download the Bull Bitcoin app, give it a try. And if you have any feedback, I'm sure Francis and the whole team would love to hear from you. And everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I think you got a wealth of information. And if you would be so kind to spread the signal, like and share this episode with your loved ones, friends, and people that really should hear this. This is the best way that you can contribute. I'm not asking for no money donations. I'm just asking you to share this episode to get the signal out. Because as Francis said, as long as the signal is growing, we win this race in the end. And finally, to those of you who are still holding your Bitcoin on Coinbase, on River, on Strike, please move it to self-custody. It's not rocket science. As you guys know, I run my Become Unruggable one-on-one mentoring. If you want my help for guided one-on-one guidance, I would be happy to help you. Reach out to me via DMs on X or Nostr, or in the show notes, there's a form. I would be so happy to help you make you a sovereign individual. And as we conclude, I'd like to leave you with this powerful quote. Self-custody is not just about holding your assets. It's about holding your freedom. Thank you for tuning in into Your Bitcoin Story. Stay sovereign, stay curious, and see you in the next one.